At Drummond Golf, we understand your passion.
Nice roll.
And that's because every Drummond Golf store is owned and run by a local who loves the game as much as you do.
Yeah, it's come off the face really well.
Someone who knows where you play and what you need.
Oh yeah, looking good.
With Australia's biggest range and expert knowledge.
Great. Now let's try that putter with this grip.
So if you want to improve your game, see your local expert at Drummond Golf.
I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to episode 49 of Playing from the Tips, Golf Australia magazine's preview and tipping podcast travelling around the world of professional golf. I'm your host Jimmy Emanuel, attempting to guide the so-called experts through fact, frivolity and full of themselves boasting over their tips and successes as we visit Las Vegas, Phoenix, Sydney and Qatar on this week's episode. The so-called experts on that journey are first one of the last bastions for the rules and self-policing as evidenced in his column this week. I speak, of course, of Rodney Morrie, the slightly distracted little Roddy Morrie with his big first assignment due at school today.
Big project today. It's got to buy a hole punch yesterday.
Are you just
that
saying?
Tells you how big it is.
I didn't realise you'd still print and punch holes.
Put it in a manila folder or something?
Oh, yeah. I used to have to borrow them from my dad's
binder
office.
with
Does it have those little metal spines that you put through the hole punches?
Got a plastic. It's just a cheap plasticky one, and so because they're throwaway, I'm going to hand them out to 6 people, and then they'll be done. Be interesting. Nice alliteration to start, by the way.
Maybe you should have bought an expensive one. You would have got a better mark.
Yeah,
effort counts.
I haven't not got a mark yet.
Yeah, but we're already assuming it's not that good.
We'll find out next week.
All right, next we turn to the man who was trumpeted worldwide in 2023 as the greatest tipster in golf and also the greatest Gala Day partner. He is now neither of those. I speak to, of course, Adrian Logue. Logue, welcome.
Thanks, Jimmy. I've got nothing in return.
No, I don't. Yet to register a win, but he did have 3 runners-up last week.
Two runners-up.
Two runners-up, sorry.
Like riding a bike, Jimmy. I mean, as long as you don't stop, you won't fall off. You just got to keep moving a bit. It'll all come back.
Yes. Speaking of tips and winning and whatnot, we didn't have a trophy last week. If only tournaments went to 72 holes, am I right? We might have had more of a chance because we had some close calls in 2 tournaments.
72.
Yeah.
Really been hurt by this LIV thing, haven't you?
But I do think we actually had a Playing from the Tips record last week. The 3 of us combined for 10 top 10s.
Wow.
Okay.
And 3 total runners-up. 2 to Logue, but 3 total.
Between us, we're a half-decent golf tipster.
That's what. We doubled our top 10s for the year in a week, so we're now at 20 top 10s and 3 wins for the year. Again, we said a lot last year, but I'm going to make the claim again, unrivaled in golf tipping podcasts in Australia, hosted by magazines.
Very specific.
Yeah. As always, before we go ahead, we look back. Was there any highlights from last week? I think Neiman with 59. That was pretty impressive on a day when no one else got close. Wyndham Clark, 60. Ball in the hand, albeit. Brett Coletta, that's a good story. Brett Coletta's a great guy.
Doesn't he look determined?
Oh, he does.
He really looks determined. Now, he's a really, really good player. He's a forgotten and underrated player.
Always been a sensational ball striker.
Oh, unbelievable. He years ago, first Sandbelt Invitational, I remember him playing well on the first day and walking the last couple of holes. And the suspicion I got from him was he was getting pretty close to being done. Like it was, I can't keep doing this anymore.
He had some off-course issues.
He did.
He had anxiety and some other things.
But he's just kept going and looks a genuine star. And then also Malaysia's Ashley Lau.
Great tournament.
Vic Open, great tournament.
It was another great week down there. I mean, it gets everything right about golf. It's still the original and the best for mine. They've tried all sorts of formats with the mixed stuff at various places. None of it is anywhere near as good as the Vic Open. This tournament nails it.
It's good viewing. The course is superb.
Superb on TV. I asked Jimmy actually
really good
while I was on it. But the broadcast doesn't go. elsewhere in the world, we don't think?
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
No,
that's a
typically, Vic Open might be slightly different, but the typical week-to-week PGA Challenger PGA Tour Australasia events don't.
Looks phenomenal.
That routing they set up on the beach course as well works really well for the tournament.
Everything
having that
that's
par
such
three
a big part of it. The way the course is really good.
It's getting Masters like it. You get to know the holes and the key holes and the swing holes and what do you got to be doing? 15. The finish is superb.
The 18,
15, 16, 17,
very
18.
interesting. 15's excellent birdie opportunity at just the right spot in the round. It's
we've said it a million times, but the whole community down there buys into the whole thing. It's such a good week, and
it's tournament. It's getting tournament golf right.
Yep.
And hat tip again to David Green, who came up with the idea
Absolutely.
12 years ago from Golf Victoria.
Absolutely. Let's go on to this week. And first, we're going to turn to you, Logue, for your preview of the. I'm going to intentionally use the tournament name so you can give us a little sponsor watch because it's hidden. The WM Phoenix Open.
Thank you for that, Jimmy. That's the correct way to say the name. The WM Phoenix Open, formerly known as the Waste Management Phoenix Open, or as they would say in France,
Waste Management Open Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
You're practically a native speaker of French now, Jimmy. You picked that up really quickly.
I'd like to know what Phoenix is in French, though. I'll look that up while you give us a little bit of a run.
Great call. Okay. The weather in Phoenix, Arizona looks interesting this week. I think it's going to be a factor. The weather was, of course, a factor last week at Pebble Beach. It's going to be very wet in the early part of the week, and it's going to clear up and be a little bit sunny. I've, of course, factored that into my
damaging
tipping.
its reputation as a desert if it's going to have rain, isn't it?
True. It's going to be wet and cold early in the
Very
week.
off-brand.
The temperature's not going to get above 10 degrees until about Thursday.
It's happened there a couple of times. This time of year is a real funny time of year in Arizona.
Remember when it snowed at the World Match Play and Martin Keimer was wearing the snood?
Yeah.
And snoods went nuts that week. People all over the world were buying them. Anyway.
So that could be interesting. Anyway, it's at the TPC, as we all know, the TPC Scottsdale Stadium course, where it's been since 1987. The course has certainly improved over those years. It's most recently was redesigned by Jay Moorish and Tom Weiskopf, recently departed Tom Weiskopf. It's now quite an interesting risk-reward strategic golf. Much. I think one of the more, a little bit like you just said with the Vic Open, Rod, we get to know the holes here a little bit. Obviously 16, but it's actually a very mediocre par 3, but the loudest hole in golf.
Yep.
Will you be writing about that this week?
Again, is that the one that led to the I hate Rob Morrie?
Yeah.
Was that a Phoenix
I personally hate Rob Morrie.
Hate Rob Morrie.
T-shirts available.
Was it imagine having to have a beer with him or something?
Yeah, there was a lot of hundreds of comments on that column.
Yeah. Very.
I've not been a fan, just for those who don't, I've not been a fan of the Phoenix Open at a 10.
I feel like you'll be going to that well again for the wrap on
so. I mean, there's no
Monday.
real value in it. It's clickbait, but
we'll see.
Let's try and be above that, shall we?
That's a truly uninteresting hole, but I guess it's interesting that they all get loud there. 17th's very interesting hole, a little par 4. It comes a good spot in the round, and 18th's actually your typical PGA Tour finishing hole.
A little bit more interest because you have to take it actually over the water,
which is your typical PGA Tour finishing hole. Really,
typically it's down the side. There's a bit more of a bailout. There's less of a bailout, and if this rollback does affect things, it could become a very interesting hole.
Oh, can you imagine the bleating if that happens? Oh, we can't carry the water off 18 at Phoenix anymore. Oh, well, let's stop the game.
All right, roll on.
The whole back nine there is actually pretty interesting. The front nine's really nondescript, though. But nonetheless, it's a familiar venue now.
It's a predominantly sort of a tourist. I think the city paid Moorish and Weiskopf to. It's a city-owned course, is that right? I'm pretty sure it's a publicly owned course that the idea was to have a public facility high-end that could also host a PGA Tour event.
It's also outrageously expensive to play.
That's
I think
a real
for what
surprise,
it is,
isn't it?
Like I think it might be $500 US or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow, for one round.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the TPC network.
Just want to rent it, sir. Don't want to buy
it. Past winners, Scotty Scheffler for the past 2 years, so going for a three-peat. There were a few players going for three-peats last year on the PGA Tour, and none of them succeeded.
Yeah.
I think this might be the only one that's up for a three-peat.
He's got a future, that Scheffler. He's pretty good.
Season, yeah. So that'll be interesting to watch. It is a course that suits players. If this course fits you, you tend to do well.
Absolutely.
Courses. Augusta National Syndrome.
Matsuyama has won there a couple of times. He actually
Fowler.
was on a three-peat or two-peat. Two-peat. Brooks Koepka won a couple of times before he went to LIV. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to expect Scotty Scheffler to perform well again. If there's a pattern to the winners, it is that they're all quite good ball strikers and adequate putters. is how I would describe it.
Yep, that's fair enough.
Which is pretty much the whole PGA Tour, really, isn't
It kind of describes Scott Scheffler pretty well. Whoever the best putter amongst the really good ball strikers, it tends to be the winner this week. It's the best attended event on the PGA Tour, and
Well,
as we know, the behaviour of the crowd is always a topic of conversation, which you can look out for Rod to write about later this week. He says it won't, but he goes. You'll draw to that well.
Definitely.
You'll
Also a highlight of the year every year when someone will post the video to social media of the guy trying to leave the stadium hole and he's just stuck in reverse.
Yeah.
Like he's got the staggers and he can't get the forward momentum going, like he's stuck on a treadmill. That's great. Yeah.
We've just got the death wobbles from side to side going down some pathway.
It's an annual tradition, isn't it? That
Yeah.
I think with it being wet as well, that's going to be fascinating for the crowd work as well.
Absolutely.
Like just
That's
trying
always,
to trudge through the mud.
I remember at Augusta one year when it poured with rain and they hadn't put down the stuff that dries everything up and the crowd slips, so people slipping over. So then you get to walk around and look at the people. I saw a lady who'd worn a nice white pants that are just covered in mud, guy with a completely muddy back. That's good fun.
The things you see at the golf.
It was very wet the year I went to Augusta, the year Tiger won, 2019. Or, and it stank.
Yeah, they put his stuff out there.
Yeah, mud's horrible.
Another factor in this tournament, I think, is that form counts, and Justin Thomas is in pretty good form. Wyndham Clark. It's one of those courses where you can just come in if you're striking it well and you're feeling confident. You're just going to be sort of brazen and confident, and you'll get rewarded. Is how I feel about this course. Yep. And Justin Thomas is coming off a couple of top tens. I think Wyndham Clark obviously won last week, and he has this sort of indestructible look about him when he's going well. Wyndham Clark. So a few potential picks there. There's some Aussies in the field as well, some with quite good chances, I think. Aaron Badley's in the field. Minwoo Lee, I think, would probably do pretty well here.
Golf course for sure.
Yeah, his sort of golf course. Loves to show off.
Oh, loves it. 16 will be so far up his alley. What's the betting on the chef's hat at some point, whether it's Thursday or...
100%. They all now get stuff from their sponsors to wear up there and whatever. Yeah. He'll have a chef hat on 16, I'm sure.
And Adam Scott and honorary Australian Ryan Fox is playing as well. My pick is a player who has, I think, got some okay form here in the past, but I've just got a good feeling about him. Sahith Theegala. It's my pick.
Okay. Yeah. No, he was definitely on the list of people that you would go to. So, Rod?
Ben Ahn.
Ben Ahn.
Yep, play off at Sony. He's played well here before. What's he had? 2 top tens, I think, in 5 starts or something. Yeah, 2 top tens in 5 starts. So, playing well at the moment.
Yeah.
He's got to win one, I think, Ben Ahn. He's a player who deserves to end his career with at least one PGA Tour.
Yeah,
don't you
I agree
think?
with that.
Looks like he's got glass eyes, though.
He's got a sense of humour.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys, you follow him on Twitter. He doesn't say a lot, but it's generally worth reading when he does. I quite like him. So, yeah, going with Ben Ahn.
I'm going to go with Ricky Fowler.
Yeah, he's a real contender.
Feels like it's resurgence. It's going to come back and plays so well there. Just everything about it seems.
Just quickly, I was up early this morning because it's early when we're recording. Schauffele and Hovland both late withdrawals. Is this the Meronk Hatton they're going to turn up in Vegas?
Don't know.
Hovland
out.
Hovland had been a regular discussion point.
And Schauffele out. Both seem like potential.
Both have been.
Is there going to be a big reveal at LIV Vegas?
Both had been big discussion points, so potentially.
It just struck me. It's odd that two players who've played well here. That was not me.
It is you.
Oh, it's that one over there.
Yeah.
If Hovland goes, that's really going to tip the balance, isn't it? Field strength wise, week to week,
be a big get.
And I mean, Schauffele is right there as well.
That's Schauffele, not so much, but Hovland. I think.
Yeah, Schauffele's
not only top of the game,
very good,
really promising. He's a good player, but I think Hovland's got a much bigger following. He's a bigger personality in that sense. That would be a bit like Rahm. That would be quite
That'd be significant.
Anyway, it's just interesting. Look, right at the last minute, as we saw last week with Meronk and Hatton. So
yeah, okay. Next, we are going to go to that very tour we're talking about, which is, of course, LIV Golf, and they go to Las Vegas during Super Bowl week in Las Vegas, which is crazy.
Bold.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with crowds and interest and stuff like that when every single person that's in that town for that week is there for something else. So whether they filter off and they go and watch it or not is going to be really, really interesting, and whether they can get any airtime whatsoever with that. And against Phoenix as well, which has got a dedicated following, particularly in America. A lot of people, certain people might not like it, but a lot of people do.
Probably a lot of overlap with LIV fans as well.
Absolutely, 100%. So it'll be very interesting to see.
My prediction, they're going to get Arlo White's going to try desperately to make a pun out of Viva Live Vegas.
Oh, yeah, I'd say there'd be some hectic work going on there. We're going to see a lot of, Vegas themed stuff, probably more than the bikes at Mayakoba of the players riding to and from.
They're going to have so many little specials. They're going to send their roving reporters
poker
out.
chips as ball markers.
Yeah, it'll be all on. They are playing at the Las Vegas Country Club, which is a venue that'll be semi-familiar. Some people used to host the PGA Tour every year for a while, hosted the LPGA Tour in the early 2000s. Very much what you would expect of the area and of what we've seen with LIV host venues. Water, white sand bunkers, birdies, usual sort of a deal. There's nothing architecturally amazing about Las Vegas Country Club.
Which doesn't mean it's a bad course, by the way. Some people
Correct.
probably think when we say that means it's a bad go. They're not bad golf courses. There's just nothing particularly interesting like you'd see at Augusta or Melbourne or some of the world's great golf courses.
There's no crooked cat.
It's no crooked cat. But it's very much built for the people visiting Las Vegas want to play a nicely conditioned golf course that's better than the one they play at home, unless they're members of Crooked Cat. And
why would you ever go away if you were
why would you leave Crooked Cat? Anyway, the players, though, do remain the biggest ticket for these events. Jon Rahm making a solid, if slightly disappointing, finish to his debut in Mexico. Really could have had a chance there to get into that playoff. And
He'll be fuming.
He would be genuinely
The music
upset.
cost him a couple.
Oh, he loves being in a bad mood, Jon Rahm. Never seen anyone who enjoys being in a bad mood so much. So watch
He
out
looked
for
kind
him.
of angry, which was good to see.
Yeah.
Like if
That's what he
if
did
he
his
was
best.
just like
Oh,
relenting,
he was
to be like, oh, I'm going to be all fake happy, like everyone.
There was some hot mic moments.
Yeah,
it was good. Yeah. Joaquin Niemann continues to play some of the best golf in the world
Without snapping in half, which might be the most amazing.
yeah, absolutely. But he is on a tear.
Enjoy
realistically, he's just doing
He's
a
in his
lot of
Harrington
good stuff.
3-year window. Is that what we're saying?
Oh, well, I spoke to a player the other day about that window, and they strongly denied that they think that exists for the top players.
Right.
There's they sort of to be read about in Golf Australia magazine in the future. But as you mentioned, still discussions about players and everything. Last week kind of flared it up. Wyndham Clark was one of the big rumoured to be going there over the last year. Didn't go. Who knows why it didn't happen. Various people will tell you whatever. He seemed to take a little bit of a shot at it when he had his 60 and said it just means more to shoot it at Pebble the day after Niemann had 59. Whether or not that's been bought into and sold by everyone or it's actually a genuine thing, who knows. But there is supposedly, from what I understand, 2 more spots that could go in there so that there's actually 4 players not playing as part of a team each week that are these roving. There was 2 last week. There could be 4.
2 WDs from the Phoenix Open this week. Just, I don't know.
Exactly.
Interesting to think about, isn't it?
You really...
Do you have? Is this you've put this together yourself?
This is my own conspiracy theory.
From that board with the red string behind us there that we're looking at?
What?
The conspiracy board that you've put.
No, listen, it happened last week with Hatton. Just because we haven't heard anything about those 2 particularly doesn't mean that that's not what's necessarily going on. It's a possibility.
Okay, I think it's important that people know that this is your
This is
This is Rod Murray's invention.
Okay.
Is this what your assignment's about for school?
No.
Okay, good. All right.
It's about something I actually know about. So I'm a much better chance.
Let's get some tips on this one. Rod, given you've got all the theories, we'll go to you.
It has to be Rahm. He is in exactly the right mood after making, 2 bogeys, I think, in the last 3 holes to miss out on the playoff. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row.
Is that why he's circled on your big board with the red wire all over?
No, I just think, look, and we saw this with Cam Smith a bit too. There's a pressure on him to win something.
Absolutely.
They've paid all the money. They've got his job now is to perform on the course and win something. He did a decent job of it last week, but he won't be happy with that. And an unhappy Jon Rahm is a dangerous Jon Rahm. So I just think he'll
agree.
And it's this is the kind of golf. I mean, he's stated this isn't his preference. This kind of golf. This will be a putting contest this week, which he famously wasn't happy with. But that won't stop him from. He can play that sort of golf. He just doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Loke?
Yeah, he's full of piss and vinegar.
He really is, and it's he's like a raging bull.
Yeah.
You'd be terrified if you were standing in front of him.
He is. I'm sticking with Legion 13 and going with Tyrrell Corporation.
Yep.
Tyrrell Hatton.
Big Legion. Are you jumping on a Legion 13 bandwagon?
Have you switched? What were you? Smash?
I'm Smash for life.
You Smash.
Yeah.
Smash, yeah.
Not switching.
I'm going to go with John Rahm as well because I agree with all that and I tipped him last week, so I'm going to just stick solid. But I'm, of course, not a Legion 13 man. I'm a Torquay man.
Yeah, Majestic for me, obviously.
Torquay came third.
Yeah, well, we're leading things and then there wasn't enough support
I don't understand
for Jaco Neiman.
The team thing. I just don't understand it. I can't keep track of it. I just cannot
open the
keep track
website
of
and
what's
the
going
teams is the first leaderboard.
Yeah, well, because that's what's got the potential value. And
someone the coverage swaps to somebody who's coming, like someone holds a putt to go from 2 over to 1 over and they go, oh, and that's put, Arlo White comes in, oh, that's put Torquay in position of third or whatever.
Yeah, well, because now that all 4 scores count on the last day, you get these really significant swings, which makes it harder when there's great idea if it's just a team event.
If it's just a team event.
If you're just focusing on one thing. But when you got different things going on,
that's it.
And you're also, trying to listen to your favourite Chainsmokers song in the background.
Couldn't work it out.
Yeah.
Ripper just finished out of the top 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know the feeling when your mate's golf ball flies past yours? Or when you're on the green in regulation, but he holds it from the bunker? At Drummond Golf, we get it. That's why we have our lowest price guarantee. As Australia's biggest, you can count on our massive buying power for the lowest prices in golf. But if you do happen to find a lower advertised price, we'll beat it. The Drummond Golf lowest price guarantee. Unbeatable. Conditions apply.
Let's get closer to home and the next of the Webex Players Series events, this time in Sydney and hosted by Braith Anasta.
Did we get Logue's tip for Liv?
Yeah, he tipped
Tyrrell Corporation.
Tyrrell Corporation, yeah. Moving from previous host of Bonnie Doon to Castle Hill Country Club. Players are in for obviously a quite different venue, but very much a different venue in terms of golf course for anyone who's seen them. I was out at Castle Hill yesterday. Redesigned by Bob Harrison in 2018-19, originally an Eric Appley design. Castle Hill is actually much improved. New bunkering, some new greens, better drainage thanks to a creek system that runs through the property. It's going to need
to the test today
because there's a heavy bit of rain on while we're recording this in Sydney. It's been hot and muggy.
Yep.
It's everything you don't want at the bottom of a hill in Western Sydney on a.
If the rain goes away in the next day or two and it gets hot over the weekend, it'll be almost unbearable walking around out there. The humidity will be just coming up your pants. You'll be able to feel it in your shoes.
A lot of water features out at
a lot of water features. A lot of drivable par 4s. So we've got at least 2, if not 3, depending on where the tees are and wind is. I walked a practice round with a couple of players yesterday, and very much that was a focus. Good par 3s as well at Castle Hill, so scoring's going to be
hedges. How are they
pretty
going?
Good. There's a bit of greenery around. Okay. It didn't stand out to me.
Okay, well, good.
But it's also, of course, a former host of the Australian PGA.
Storied venue, really.
It is.
Cannon Challenge, won by...
Famously, Mike Harwood beat Shark when he was on his big streak in 1986.
Yeah. A Shark won there as well. I can't remember exactly what Shark won there. Billy Dunk won there. And then Paul Gow won the Cannon Challenge where he was presented with a green jacket and an oversized check, both of which he still has at his house.
Is that right?
Cannon Challenge guy, wasn't he, Paul Gow?
Oh, yeah. And in the clubhouse, I actually saw at a second-hand clothing store near me a while ago a Cannon Challenge cap that was a style I'd never seen that I nearly bought for Ewan Porter. I didn't because I don't like him that much. They've sold it since, but they've got 2 of them on the wall signed by a bunch of players.
Wow.
So now I regret.
Senior would have been a Cannon player.
Senior was definitely a Cannon player.
Yeah, so he would have signed it.
Absolutely.
Gowie would have signed it. There's quite a few Cannon players back then.
Yeah, absolutely. So outside of all of that, players were getting the pretty sort of standard run of things. You got a few that are getting ready to go overseas. So for the likes of Jordan Zunic was a late withdrawal to get ready to go play in Malaysia on the Asian Tour next week, but mostly the same. Brett Coletta and Ashley Lau both backing up their Vic Open wins. A bunch of the rest of the winners from this year or this season in the field are on the men's side. Even Peter Lonard, another Cannon Challenge regular, who's playing with the flat bellies this next 2 weeks. So good to see Pete out there hitting range balls until all hours of the day.
It's his old stomping ground. He's from Western Sydney, is he not? So he would be very familiar with the old Castle Hill.
Oatlands originally, but yeah, absolutely. Kazuma Kobori, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but Pete Lonard is very much not from Western Sydney anymore. He lives in a much fancier part of town. Kazuma Kobori has been outstanding of late and is worth keeping an eye on. He's sort of got the strike of he could be the David Micheluzzi this season.
Oh, yeah.
He's won twice, won 2 of these Players Series events back-to-back, was good last week late. He's really got that momentum, and you go watch him. He was out yesterday, Monday, at Castle Hill, out there working really hard. Hot day. He's just come up from Victoria. He was out there grinding. So he's got the skills at the moment. Daniel Gale and Alex Edge, both Castle Hill locals. There's actually quite a few of them. Aaron Townsend as well, and a couple others are members of the golf club who'll know a bit better. And it is a golf course that it's kind of in front of you, but there's some holes that it will help having played there a lot, I'd say. On the women's side, Min Yoon is a proven winner in this format. And Jenny Shin, LPGA Tour player, back in town. So came and played the Aussie Open, stayed in Australia for a little while for a holiday.
Wasn't she looking for an Australian man?
There was a bit of Twitter action around. She, like the looks of some Australian men. But
Fascinating.
She went back to the States and then reached out for an invite and is here this week, and I don't think next week, but he's come out to Sydney.
I'd like to hear more about that. Are you out there this week?
I sure am.
Have a chat to her and find out what that's about. That's really interesting.
Big name to be coming out and playing.
It's a big congratulations and shout out to the WPGA Tour of Australasia and Karen Lunn and Jimmy Nichols, who have pushed hard to really raise their numbers in these events. This is now pushing to this week, not so much, but they've been getting towards the capacity number set for their side of the equation, which takes more men out of the field, which is obviously not so popular with the guys. But that wasn't close in recent years, and that's been the push they had to hold a really good Q school. Got a lot of overseas players, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand coming out and getting cards, and they're now playing this run, and there's a good stretch now from they go to the Hunter Valley next week, and then they go and play some Pro-Ams and regional open qualifiers for Women's New South Wales Open. They've got Bonneville, so good on them. Because that's
shout out to Jimmy Nichols. He got quite a bit of screen time last week in the Vic Open.
Did he?
The Scorer's Hut, like commanding presence in the Scorer's Hut,
as he should.
In 5 years' time, particularly for the women, I think these Webex Players Series, you'll really start to see the fruits of this labour. It takes time to build.
Absolutely.
The problem for women's professional golf in Australia has always been we do not have enough professional women players to have a series or a circuit. There just isn't enough of them. And so what you're talking about, what Karen Lunn's done, is exactly what we need. And that will boost our own local players as well, because they've got places to play. Again, PGA, WPGA, huge congrats. This Webex Players Series is a fantastic idea. And it's given us something to follow every week.
Absolutely. And the amateur invites are always good, but particularly this week, Justice Bozio comes in. She was top 10 last week at the Women's Amateur Asia Pacific. Congratulations to her. She's a really
Did you have a
impressive
course record
player.
on one of the days or closer? She had 63, I think,
yeah,
on the third day or
something.
something. Yeah, really good round of golf.
Let's get some tips. Logue, why don't you enlighten us?
I don't feel great about this tip, but it's just an instinct. Newly married, looking at what he's going to do to support his family now. So, Jared Felton.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that player. Who's that?
Hannah Green's husband.
Oh, Jared Green. Yeah,
yes, Jared Green. Jared Green, Felton.
Jared, I'm not taking part in this. If you ever get approached for an interview by any of us three,
he'd be feeling the pressure of like, I've got a family to support. Anyway, let's see how he goes. Jared Felton.
A very good golf course for Jared. He's a very, very good ball striker.
When he's good, he's unbelievably good.
He won this event. In Bonnie Doon a couple of years ago.
I was going to say not at Castle Hill.
Rain shortened when they cancelled the final round, and
him and Brendan
physically,
Jones,
I think he can do this tournament. He's very fit, and
he is very fit guy.
I think physically, he's not going to have a problem with the conditions out this week.
He's a worker, and he's a guy he's one of those guys who just constantly working. He's working, where he really takes it seriously, which he should. It's his job. But.
Rod, a tip.
I'm going to go with the aforementioned Brendan Jones. He's a former Castle Hill member too, I'm pretty sure.
He sure is. There's a picture of him in the pro shop, in the clubhouse.
Played his first professional tournament. I think I interviewed him before that after he'd won the Australian Amateur. And he did okay last week. He couldn't quite keep up with the pace. The scoring was pretty hot last week down at the Vic Open, but I don't mind his chances this week.
I think you tipped him last week.
I did, so I'm sticking with it.
I'm going to tip Jared Felton's regular practice round playing partner, James Marquezani. Who's been playing some good golf.
Yep.
The suspicion is you always tip him at Rosebud, but I held back from that, thinking,
saved him up for this week.
Saved him up. And
a muscular player.
Yeah. I walked some holes with him yesterday, and he put on one of the great driving clinics. The joke was, of course, always Monday birdies for Marquezani, but that's okay. He actually was hitting the ball fantastically, and I really do think he's
Well, there you
a
go.
big chance.
That's some insight from on the ground.
Yeah,
That's right. That's why I went last, so that none of you guys can steal my insights. Lastly, we're going to return to the Middle East as the DP World Tour continues its desert swing. Unfortunately, we can't hide what the sponsor is for Sponsor Watch here. I don't. Did you go? You didn't
No,
tell us
we
what
didn't get
Waste
anything on
Management
Everyone
does.
knows what Waste Management is. Right there in the name.
Do they?
Do they?
Well, I looked into the story, but I'm not going to
Okay,
share
no,
it because
please.
you
Well-
should have.
Okay. This time, the DP World Tour is at the Commercial Bank Qatar Masters, and Rod, you're going to take us through it.
Well, as you've already said there, Commercial Bank, pretty self-explanatory, Jimmy. Here's one fact about them that you probably don't know. They were the first private bank in Qatar. And now you do know that, and you'll always know that.
I'll never forget that.
You'll never forget that. Golf, obviously, here more important. There's a link here to the Phoenix Open. When they built this course, they imported 65 cacti from Arizona.
Really?
Why you would mention that in your description of the course, I don't know.
Why would you,
That's all it says.
Would you do that?
It seems odd, doesn't it? Didn't one of the courses in the Middle East import sand from Scotland, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken? And in fact, grass from Scotland. They put on
Yeah.
a refrigerated passenger jet, and brought it
Yeah.
to... Anyway, crazy stuff. That was the 80s and 90s. Course is pretty flat, lots of bunkers, plenty of water. They don't look a whole lot different, these courses that you see in the Middle East. You're somewhat limited by the landscape to what you can do. So as I said, the land's pretty flat. You've got to make all of the hazards. Look, not to say that it doesn't produce interesting golf. It does. You've got good players, anywhere from 13 to 20 under, so the scoring is pretty good. You'll see lots of birdies. There's nothing brilliant. Does a good job. Players to watch. Endicott's back for a second week. He was going beautifully through two rounds.
He was, yeah.
Just sort of fell off the pace at the weekend, but that was a pretty impressive. What certainly backed up his decision to go to the Middle East rather than stay in America and not play. So well done. Best of luck this week. Scrivener, David Micheluzzi, Hayden Barron, the other Australians. Micheluzzi was going very nicely on Sunday.
well
He was 7 under through 15 and finished 4 under.
Yeah.
3 dropped shots in the last 3 holes or 4 holes, which was a real shame. Would have been a top 10 otherwise. So look out for him this week. He's got a bit of a feel about him. An important year for him. Fratelli, the winner from last week, backing up. Rasmus Højgaard, who was my tip last week. He was off the boil a bit, but he still finished the top 10, so maybe worth another look. Xander Lombard, Occy Stray. There's your European Tour, DP World Tour kind of field. Look, it'll be similar to what we've watched the last few weeks in the Middle East, and that's plenty pleasant enough and worth watching on your TV of an evening as you sort of have dinner and settle in for the night. It's a good watch.
Always made for some of the best background TV, the DP World Tour.
Yeah, It's the right time of day over here.
Have it on while you're cooking,
Yeah,
or you're sitting there
exactly.
and doing some late work like some of us do. Logue wouldn't be familiar with that, but
Well, it's not the late or the work.
all of it.
All of the above. Your Webex Players Series finish then tends to bleed quite nicely into the European Tour coverage in the Middle East as well. You've got about 2 or 3 hours there to chop some vegetables and do whatever you've got to do, and then back to the TV. Look, it'll be a good event this week. If you like golf, you'll enjoy watching it. My tip, Eddie Pepperell. I'll tell you why. A, he's a former winner here. Not that he's done much in his other starts, but B, his podcast won the British Best Golf Podcast Award last week.
Did it really?
Yeah, the chipping forecast that he does with Ian Carter and Andrew Cotter, which I do listen to.
Oh, he
It's
still
very
does
good.
it with Andrew Cotter.
Yeah, well, they've had a couple of goes at different podcasts, but this one looks to be pretty solid. It's him and Ian Carter. And it actually is a very good podcast. I'm not surprised that they won. Pepperell brings some fabulous insight.
He does. And then those other two are
And Cotter,
absolute top pros.
You
So-
don't get better than Ian Carter when it comes to covering golf. And Andrew Cotter, whilst he's a multi-sport guy, his golf knowledge is phenomenal. So, so because he's on a high now from winning the award, he's going to back it up and win in Qatar.
Nice.
Well done, Eddie.
Logue?
I'm going with Højgaard, Rasmus.
Rasmus. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Alex Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Sticking with the brothers theme.
Okay.
But also because he was pretty impressive last year. I think he's kind of on the way. And announced
Featuring.
this week as featuring in
Yeah.
the second season of Full
Absolutely,
Swing.
yeah. He's
So-
earned his place.
He's-
Good player.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch how he goes this year. That will do us for playing from the tips and the 49th episode. Half a century next week. That's exciting, isn't it? To do something special.
Front 9, really, isn't it? 50.
It must
Ready to make the turn.
Must have been doing this for a year then.
Yeah.
Jeez, you're good.
You're like a mathematical genius, like a savant, aren't you? You just don't miss.
Yes. Rod, good luck handing in your assignment. I'm
Yeah,
gonna go with B+.
Oh, it's actually okay.
No?
It's actually a practical assignment. I've got to get up and teach a class today for the first time.
Is
So-
that why you've got the board with all the
Spare
red
a
string
thought.
all over it?
Spare a thought
That's
for
why-
a
that's why I
small
didn't-
group
that's why
of
I didn't-
students.
That's why I didn't sleep much.
I
last
didn't
night.
know,
I'm
Western
not looking
Sydney.
forward.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Godspeed to the rest of the
Yeah,
class.
exactly.
Luke, I think this is the week you might restore your tipping prowess.
Oh, do you think?
And
Okay.
your arrogance will return. It's
Smug. Nobody likes smug.
smug, yeah. Well, I think that people do.
Except the person
There's
that's
a lot
smug.
of people on Twitter who are like, I've got to listen to Logan and his tips and whatever. So I think
lot?
the people do like
A lot
smugness.
of people on Twitter saying that.
Well, some. You can follow all the action from these events on the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au, where you can also catch the latest episode of The Thing About Golf featuring the legendary amateur Vinnie Giles with John Huggan.
Really interesting interview. Surprising. One of those interviews you press play and think it should be all right, and at the end you go, that was amazing.
Oh, was
We-
that with... was that
Vinnie
with Huggy?
Giles.
We
Really.
always encourage listening
I
to
thought
The
it was
Thing
one of
About
yours.
Golf, but
might have seen it.
that particular episode,
Yeah, there was
get
just-
out and listen.
It's unexpected, some of the stuff
Yeah.
you hear, and that's what makes a great interview, I reckon.
Yeah, and Huggy, as always, doing a great job. Shout out to Huggy.
Well done, Huggy.
Thank you for listening, and we will be back next week on Playing from the Tips.